Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. My name is Subha Ramanathan, and I'm the manager of the Bicycle Friendly Communities, or BFC program. I welcome you to today's session and applaud you for your efforts in supporting active transportation within your communities. This session is about how to gain recognition through a BFC award for the work already taking place within your municipalities. As a bit of housekeeping, if you have any questions as you're listening to the presenters, please type it in the chat box and we'll monitor it and respond either through chat or during the Q&A portion towards the end of the session. A recording of this session and a copy of all slides will be posted to our website by the beginning of next week. The BFC is a partnership-based awards program delivered by the League of American Cyclists, Share the Road, and Velo Quebec across Canada and the United States. Our applications use the same online system and have virtually identical forms with adaptations for language and context. The application is a comprehensive roadmap for communities to assess current conditions for cycling, hence the title of this webinar, Apply and Assess Your Assets. There are 5 possible designations ranging from bronze through to diamond, with a 6th category, honorable mention, to denote communities that have some of the building blocks in place and are likely to receive an award if planned initiatives are implemented over the next 2 to 3 years. BFC awards may be thought of as process awards that must be renewed every 4 years. The program has evolved since inception such that a bronze community in 2010 would not be eligible for a bronze in 2021. As the state of cycling and possibilities for cycling have improved, so have the markers for an award. So today, cycling master plans, separated cycling infrastructure, and in-school cycling education are considered foundational rather than exceptional. There are 2 opportunities each year to apply for an award. The spring deadline was in April, and the winners were Whitehorse, Brantford, and Lincoln. The next application deadline is Friday, October 8th, so there's still about 2.5 months to go. By the end of this session, we will equip you with the knowledge and tips to navigate the online system and submit a strong application. For today's session, I will begin with an overview of the Open Water online system, talk you through some of the key features available to you and strategies to populate the form. Following this, you'll hear from Catherine Broadbelt, who is the lead applicant from Brantford that received a bronze designation in the most recent spring 2021 round. She'll share with you her journey to advance the municipality from an honorable mention to bronze. Then we'll turn it over to Michael Stewart, who is a community relations specialist at CAA South Central Ontario. Michael serves a dual role for the BFC program. He's a sponsor representative and member of the judging panel that appraises applications and provides recommendations for award levels and suggested improvements. Your go-to resource on how to become a BFC is our website. On our site under programs, you'll find a link to the application form, frequently asked questions, downloadable Word and PDF version of the form so you can populate it offline, tips for getting started, and past BFC yearbooks that offer inspiration for programming and initiatives to increase rates of cycling within your communities. When you download the Word or PDF version of the form, you'll notice that there are 4 core areas, or the 4 E's that we refer to them. Within engineering, key areas include cycle-specific policies, general active transportation policies, design documents, and existing cycling infrastructure. For education, we'd like to know about the types of cycling skills training that's available in schools, at camps, and for adults. As well, we'd like to hear about the initiatives to educate drivers, including bus drivers and truck drivers, as well as cyclists. And this is education on how to share the road safely. For encouragement, we want to hear about your signature events. What do you do in Bike Month? Do you have trail maps available and programs and services that are offered to increase ridership? Finally, under evaluation and planning, tell us about your staff and committees dedicated to cycling issues, available funding, and your monitoring systems to collect data about ridership. As you can see, even at a quick glance, there's a lot of information across 4 broad areas that must be collected in order to apply. For that reason, we recommend that you create an application task force. Assemble a group that will help to pull together the necessary information. Key players will probably be municipal staff and local cycling advocates, but you may need to reach out to public health, police services, and active and safe routes to school managers. For those communities who have cycling master plans in place, you may already have an active transportation committee, in which case the BFC application may simply be a task for the subcommittee. I must also mention here that we have seen cases of individual staff members submitting applications on behalf of a municipality. However, what we recommend is collaboration to share the work and ensure a complete application is submitted. Now, once you know the types of information required, it's time to visit the online application platform. The link is available through Share the Roads website. This is the homepage that you'll see for the online platform. As I mentioned earlier, we share this platform with our partners, so be sure to apply and create an account within Share the Roads program and not Velo Quebec's. The correct link is on the final line, and that's denoted by the green arrow there. If you've already created an account and are reapplying, you'll be prompted to log in and you'll have the option to review past submissions or submit a new one. When you begin a new application, this is the page that you'll see. That application task force mentioned earlier comes into play here. As the lead applicant, you have the option to add collaborators. You may add as many collaborators as you wish. Collaborators can access and populate the submission, though only one person can edit it at once. All other users can view read-only versions till the person editing has saved and logged out. Also important to note is that only the primary applicant has the option to submit the form. And so they have the final responsibility to ensure that it is complete before the deadline. There are 2 components to completing the BFC application. The first is the application form itself with the different types of questions, and the second is local reviewer forms. A link to the local reviewer form is available through the online platform, the offline PDF and Word versions, as well as Share the Roads website. Local reviewers must be external to the application team, but it can come from they may come from the Active Transportation Committee, local advisory groups, municipal staff, bike shops, or even cycling clubs. Local reviews are completed by residents within an applicant community, and what they do is it sheds light on actual cycling experiences, community strengths, and barriers. This information is not always obvious from the completed application alone. 3 reviews must be submitted before the application deadline. Once you're ready, you may begin populating the application in any order you wish. At the top of your screen, you'll see hyperlinks to every section, and you can click and jump around as you please. At the bottom, you have 3 options. Previous to navigate back, save if you're thinking of navigating to a different section or closing the session, and save and next to continue populating the form in order. The form also auto-saves when dormant, so you're unlikely to lose any information even if you forget to press the save button. As general guidance when completing the form, please populate all applicable fields. There are both mandatory and optional questions, and we only recommend leaving those optional questions that are not applicable blank. Bonus questions are open-ended at the end of each course section, and that'll give you the opportunity to showcase community strengths and elaborate on previous responses. The judging panel carefully considers these responses, so please do take the time to fill them out. The final section of the application is supplementary materials. In previous applications, I've seen PDFs of promotional campaigns, screenshots of websites, reports, and community newsletters. These are wonderful additions to your application. As well, high-quality photos are particularly compelling and serve as a prompt for judges to take a closer look at your application. Endeavor to include at least one photo and something that showcases the state of cycling within your community. If your community receives an award, a photo is helpful for Share the Road to include in a press release, on social media, or for addressing media requests. There are 4 elements in adjudicating an application. As I mentioned earlier, local reviews are completed by residents within your community. Next, the online system automatically scores all closed-ended responses like the checkboxes. So this is one of the reasons why it's important to answer all questions and to provide conservative estimates where concrete data are not available. The third component is the scoring of open-ended responses by 3 judges. This is followed by a group meeting to discuss discrepancies and finalize designations. On that note, I'd like to touch upon what happens following the application deadline. Judges have about a month to adjudicate applications. In about 5 to 6 weeks, you can expect to receive an email notifying you of the results. Between 6 to 10 weeks, new award winners will receive 1 complimentary highway quality sign with the option to purchase additional signs, if you see in the picture here. At 8 to 10 weeks, all applicants, including those who did not receive a designation, will get a feedback report. This report will have recommendations on how to advance to the next level, and you may share it with councils and committees. And it also states the 4-year period of your award. At 8 to 10 weeks, there will be a public announcement through a press release, a tweet, and an e-newsletter. I'm going to close my portion by just highlighting some of the supports available to you as an applicant. Share the Road is committed to assisting communities along their journey to apply or reapply to the BFC program. One of the final questions in the form will ask, would you be willing to share your application with others? And for the most part, previous applicants have all responded yes. So what this means is that any new applicant or reapplicant has access to completed forms, and you can use those for inspiration or as a starting point. You can simply review the list of current BFCs on our website and email bfc@sharetheroad.ca for copies. At present, this service is actually of benefit to reapplicant communities from spring 2018 or earlier, and because they had applied using the previous online system. Sometimes files get lost during staff turnover, and the good thing is that I can locate the files for you when the 4-year renewal deadline approaches. And for anyone who has an application already in open water, the current online system, and that would be those from fall 2018 or later, data can automatically be imported into the new form whenever you are ready to reapply. And finally, if you get stuck at any point in the process, please send me an email, bfc@sharetheroad.ca, and I'm ready and waiting to help you out. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Catherine Broadbelt, and I'll wait for her to unmute. And she's going to give you a first-hand account of her experiences with applying this spring on behalf of the city of Brantford.
Thank you so much. So as mentioned, my name is Catherine Broadbelt, and I'm the Transportation Planning Project Coordinator with the City of Brantford. Oh, we can go next slide. So just an overview of my presentation. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of Brantford. Brantford was one of those cities that went from honorable mention to bronze designation, so I'll talk about that. We'll talk about why you should apply to the BFC, where to focus your time on the application, critical application details, collaboration amongst departments, and community benefit. Next slide. So Brantford is a medium-sized city along the Grand River with a population of 97,000 people. We're located approximately 30 minutes west of Hamilton. We are a single-tier municipality, and we are surrounded by Brant County. So as mentioned, Brantford received an honorable mention in 2018 when we first applied to this. Soon after that, we held a Share the Road Bicycle-Friendly Communities workshop where suggestions for measures to improve cycling in the community were discussed. Out of this workshop, there were 64 suggestions that were recorded across the 5 E's categories. The first step in this whole suggested measure was to hire an active transportation planner to really get the ball rolling on all of the projects that we had identified. So just later that year, an active transportation planner was hired. And since then, we've been working to upgrade to a bronze designation, which we just, as mentioned, received in spring of 2021. So the great part about the BFC workshop was that it helped identify different measures to help progress your active transportation investments across the city. So some of the projects that we've been working on since then include a bicycle parking inventory and an expansion to our bicycle parking network, expansion of on-road cycling routes, creating contraflow bike lanes on 2 of our one-way streets in the city, investing in bicycle repair stands, and creating a network of wayfinding signage. In terms of education, we've established an active transportation subcommittee. We've created an active transportation webpage on the city's website. We have an active and safe routes to school programming that is conducted through the Brant County Health Unit, the City of Brantford, and both of the school boards that are in the city. Through encouragement, we have been hosting Bike Month for the past couple of years, and we were hosting Bike Ballet before COVID hit, but plan to continue that once it's safe to do so. And then for evaluation and planning, we've invested in trail counters and are collecting travel data for the number of cyclists in the city. Next slide, please. So you might be wondering, why is it worth it to apply to the bicycle-friendly communities? The main thing that I would say is that it really helps you identify your active transportation strengths and weaknesses in your community. It's a very in-depth process, and it really makes you think about things you might not even notice within your community and really brings out those strengths and weaknesses that you have. It also really helps you strengthen the relationships with stakeholders. You need a large group for this and a lot of collaborators on this, and it really helps you tie those relationships together. It also sparks new ideas for application within your community. So like I said, we held that workshop right after our honorable mention, and it really helped create ideas and really get our active transportation investments moving forward. And it just guided those future efforts towards our bronze award. It allows you to know where your community stands in regards to other communities. And it rewards persistence as municipalities respond to feedback and they make changes in their community and apply again and again and just keep improving their active transportation investment. It also guides progress for what communities should do next. Go next slide. So in terms of completing the application, you might be wondering where you should focus your time. For us, a big part of it was highlighting our wins. So we focused our time on identifying and describing any policies, amenities, infrastructure improvements, and maintenance programs that we had implemented. Our goal was, don't be afraid to brag about it, but we were also being very honest with ourselves. When you're being honest with where you have gaps in your cycling network, it really helps you to allow you to identify them through this process. It also allows you to identify where investments can be made and where things might be lacking within your community, which is really important as well. So before we started this whole process, we put together a list of all of the active transportation initiatives that we've been working on since 2018 within the community, and we made sure that we included all of those within the application. And as well, we got organized before starting, and we put together a team to collaborate with, which I'll kind of go over all of our collaborators in the next slide. So for our participants in our Brantford BFC application, we had the transit department, we had someone from the tourism department, parks department, operations department. We had some of the members from the AT subcommittee. One of them was our reviewer. Same with the local cycling club, we had a reviewer from them as well. And a bicycle shop owner also was one of our reviewers. And then we had a couple of members from the school boards. In terms of community benefits that come out of this, it shows the community that you're taking a step in the right direction. It brings that public forefront to active transportation, and it's just some positive news that you get regarding your active transportation recognition. It also demonstrates your municipality's dedication to active transportation, and it helps you gain support from the public to continue your investments in active transportation. I believe that's the end of mine, and I'll pass it on to Michael.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we can go. So as Kath mentioned, my name is Michael Stewart, and I work with CAA. So we can go to the next slide. So I just want to start off by giving a bit of background on CAA and what we do, as I'm sure some folks on the call might be thinking, what is the Canadian Automobile Association doing being part of a bike program? So CAA has been advocating on traffic safety, mobility, transportation, infrastructure, and consumer protection since 1903. As infrastructure has evolved, so has our advocacy, and we advocate for things such as dedicated infrastructure funding, towing regulations, and active transportation initiatives. Today, with over 2 million members in Ontario, we continue to work in partnership with transportation and safety experts to make transportation safe and viable for our members and Ontarians alike. I also want to highlight that a quarter of our members do actually cycle at least once a month. And we're always looking for opportunities to improve road safety, whether that be through research, strategic partnerships. So for example, our cycling efforts, this includes partnerships with local advocacy groups, government, the Great Waterfront Trail Adventure, Ontario Active School Travel Council, and of course, Share the Road. And also looking through advocacy and public education, which our public education programs, for example, include our Dutch Reach messaging, as well as our Watch for Bikes campaign. And it's important to mention that our commitment goes beyond just messaging as well. From our product offerings to members like Bike Assist, which is roadside assistance. If your bike ever breaks down, we're there to help get you where you need to go. Trip tips, so you can plan cycling trips and stop at bike-friendly attractions. Cycling equipment in our stores, and reward partners like Bike Share Toronto. Next slide. So I touched on some of this in my previous slide, but just wanted to share some examples of our work and our dedication to keeping roads safe for those who travel by two wheels. We continue to share information on sharing the road safely and encourage our members to cycle through communications in our magazine, e-letter, on our website, and social channels. So in short, CA services and safety advocacy continue to evolve as the road safety user landscape changes and as our members continue to embrace cycling. Next slide. So now the reason why we're all here today. The Bicycle Friendly Community Program is a great structured approach for communities to make cycling a safer, more accessible mode of transportation and a fun physical activity for all ages. The program can be a guide for communities trying to navigate this current shift in mobility brought on by the pandemic. And that's why CA continues to support and believe in this program. We've been the main sponsor since 2010, and our support goes towards workshops for municipalities, the workshop at the Bike Summit, and much more. And we also make sure to support the program beyond just funding by sharing information in our magazine, through our direct member communications, and on social media. Most recently, we're partnering with Share the Road and getting bicycle-friendly community bike racks installed at our CA stores located in awarded communities. We did 3 last year as part of the pilot, and then we had 6 additional stores sign on this year that wanted them. We also have an article in our upcoming print magazine about the program. And our magazine is shared with over 1 million households in the province. So anything we can do to help raise awareness about the program. And I'd also just like to take a moment here to thank Subha for all her hard work in maintaining the integrity of the program and ensuring that communities are getting the most out of every application. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, I do kind of wear 2 hats when it comes to the program. So both as representative from CA, but also as a judge on the committee evaluating the applications. So I just wanted to share some things that stand out for me. So the first one is safe and connected cycling infrastructure. So how many protected bike lanes or dedicated trails are in your community? And then as well, are they connected? So are people able to complete entire trips using these facilities? Or are they just kind of scattered around and not fully connected as one big cycling network? Recent active transportation plan or cycling master plan, as well as completed past efforts. So when was your active transportation plan or cycling master plan adopted? Is it 1 year old, 2 years, 10 years, 20? So the more recent, the better. And as well, is there a list of efforts that have already been completed, or what have you accomplished from past plans? Thirdly, cycling safety education for youth and adults. So what programs exist to educate people of all ages on how to cycle safely in their community, as well as who do you partner with on these initiatives? Do you work with local police? Do you work with community groups, with schools? Is there curriculum already in the schools about cycling safety? And as well, are there any incentives to complete these programs? So I know some places offer discounts on rideshare programs, free helmets, or free cycling gear. So what initiatives do you have in your community? And then lastly, encouraging cycling. So it's great to have the infrastructure and it's great to have education, but how else are you encouraging people to get out there and get on their bikes? So are there programs or bike shares available to give equitable access to bikes? Is there bike month celebrations or other community events like group rides? Is there enough bike parking? Things like that that really showcase your commitment to encouraging your community to cycle. And I believe that's it from me.
Thanks so much, Michael. So I've taken a look at the chat box. There aren't any questions there, but we do have about half an hour left, which is wonderful. And we have a nice and small group to interact with. So if you do have any questions for any of the speakers today, please use the hand up function. And I will call on you and you can unmute and share your question with us. We have quite a range of participants today. I see some from previous BFC designated communities, some from those who have already started an application in the new system. Oh, there are some questions coming in now. Wonderful. So we'll address Army's first. Army asks, and Army is from Ajax, given COVID-19 conditions, do education efforts have to be in person or would videos and virtual events count? The virtual ways of engaging with students are most certainly applicable, and we do want to hear about them. In fact, many communities have pivoted their programs to create these legacy videos that can be used on an ongoing basis. Oftentimes we know that cycling skills education is tied to funding restrictions. And in the absence of in-person learning, many have put those funds towards creating high quality videos that can then serve generations to come. So it's wonderful that many communities have created new resources during the pandemic, and we would most certainly like to hear about them in the application. The next question is from Neil. I'm not sure where this is from. Neil, if you wouldn't mind unmuting, you can share.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm from Ottawa.
Oh, from Ottawa. Okay. Do you have a list on your website, the communities that have won awards? Yes. So we have both a list of communities that have won awards, and we have a map that shows where the communities are. And most recently, all of the communities from Quebec have been added, which may be of relevance to you, Neil, in Ottawa, because just over the border, there are many BFCs that you might consider sharing programming and infrastructure with. I'm sure there are some trails that go across provincial guidelines. The next question I see is from Nelson in Brampton. That's my hometown. That's where I'm speaking from right now. Nelson asks, do you have a stock slide deck that we can use to communicate to partners the reasons for applying and the benefits of BFC? We don't have a slide deck that is specific to reasons for applying and the benefits of BFC, but the slides from today and the recording from today will be shared. That's a very good suggestion, though. What I can do over the next little while is to generate something that is specific that can be used to gain support from councils and local committees. So thank you for that. Catherine, I wonder if there was anything that took place in Brantford during COVID-19 that you wanted to highlight and just share with attendees today how Brantford had pivoted their programs during the pandemic, or continues to, I shouldn't say had, continues to pivot programs during the pandemic.
Sure, I can try and speak to that. I think the major thing that impacted us during the pandemic was just how to continue to involve the public in all of our projects that continued through COVID. So that was something that we really had to revise at the beginning of the pandemic, was how to reach out to households that live around where our projects were being implemented, specifically the bike lane project. We came up with mail outs to every individual household, and then they had the opportunity to either mail back in their survey and responses, or to complete their survey on our online platform. In terms of specific COVID related infrastructure, we never got to that point in our process. Creating a bicycle friendly community in the city of Brantford has been a fairly recent application for us. So just the projects we were already working on was taking up enough of our time that we just didn't have time to specifically invest in COVID infrastructure.
And that's a very important point. We're not expecting things to be business as usual. We realize that during a pandemic, many staff, particularly if public health were involved in active transportation initiatives, have been seconded to vaccination clinics and to public health messaging campaigns. There are limited staff and summer staff positions that have been created, and everyone is working remotely. So we understand that the conditions are different than in previous non-pandemic years, and there are open-ended sections throughout the application where you can tell us about what used to be and then what is currently taking place now, with also the chance to tell us which of these elements do you hope will continue to be implemented once the reopening processes take place. There's a question from Louise from Waterloo. I understand the enforcement section has been removed from the application. Is this still the case? As a standalone section, enforcement has been removed from the BFC application, but you'll notice looking through the online version or the PDF version that there are questions about enforcement that have been inserted throughout. And so now we see enforcement of rules of the road and bicycle theft prevention and things like that to be overarching themes that are appreciated across the remaining 4 E's. So there isn't a 5th standalone enforcement section any longer. And this is also the case in the US application. And our partners at Velo Quebec currently still have a standalone section, but by the 2022 application rounds, that will be dissolved and instead appreciated across the remaining 4 themes as well. So another question from Army from Ajax. Are there any best practices for raising awareness among resistant drivers that CAA or other municipalities would be willing to share? Michael, would you mind taking a look at that and seeing strategies to address resistant drivers?
So obviously that's something that we definitely encounter a lot in our messaging. Of whenever you're talking about sharing the road, there's always going to be that kind of us versus them mentality of, well, I'm a driver, I'm a cyclist, I'm a pedestrian. Everyone kind of goes into their little role, into their roles, and sometimes heads butt. But the important thing to remember is just to remind everyone that we are all road users. We all have a responsibility to keeping each other safe on our roads. And even that reminder of what the rules of the roads are for each different road user and how they can safely interact. So we do a lot of messaging for people on bikes, it's making sure you have appropriate lighting, bells, making sure you're visible, use your hand signals, be predictable, but same for drivers. So they have to be predictable, they have to use their lighting when appropriate, and they also have to make sure that they're not driving distracted. So reminding everyone of what the best practices are we find works best, and just kind of that reminder of we're all in this together. Similar to the COVID pandemic messaging, we all have a role to play and we can all do our part to help keep our roads safe.
I can jump in there as well. So for the city of Brantford, like I mentioned, for our public engagement for all of our road projects, we did mail outs. In the follow-up to those surveys, we actually sent out educational components. So just identifying what different signs mean, what different roadway markings mean, just that kind of stuff to kind of make drivers aware, especially if they're living on the street, that these bike lanes and bike facilities might be implemented on, just to kind of educate them that way.
Catherine, I'm wondering if you can also speak to a question that Nelson had put up about communicating with partners the reasons for applying and gaining public buy-in for cycling infrastructure and dedicating funds for cycling.
Can you just re-ask that question?
Sure. So I'm just wondering if, to tie in Army's question and Nelson's question, are there strategies that were used in Brantford to help to gain public and municipal buy-in for dedicating more resources, whether it was time or money, for cycling infrastructure and active transportation? How did you onboard your community, public and staff?
To be completely honest with you, this is something that the city of Brantford really struggles with. A lot of our projects actually get derailed by the public. So that was one of the reasons that we were kind of trying to do these educational components, because we think that a big portion of our pushback is just due to the lack of education within the community. So that's something that we're wanting to focus on over the next year or two, is just to try and relieve that pushback that we're getting from the public and really get more forward momentum with the projects that we're trying to implement. Yeah, I would love to hear if anybody else had that kind of experience and how they push momentum, because that's something that we really struggle with in Brantford.
Army, would you mind unmuting? I see that you'd be willing to share about raising awareness in Ajax.
So we're experimenting with, maybe I should show my video too.
Yes, please.
So we've been experimenting with different types of messaging, both on social media, and we also created a video that targets drivers. I think we probably could do some more efforts to promote that video on driver awareness. I'm wondering also, like, what are some of the best ways of reaching drivers who may not necessarily go to a municipal website? So at least Catherine gave a good example of distributing materials to each door. I'll see how feasible that is on our end. And I like that CAA is giving out that messaging as well, but I'm also trying to figure out where else they get information and where else can they get that information, because based on the comments on a lot of our social media, it seems like people still aren't getting that message. But we currently do have a video out there that says watch for bikes when turning at intersections, give a minimum of 1 meter when passing, and also do not park in the bike lane. And then we updated our website as well to show that. And we really made an effort to massage the language so that it'll soften that road rage. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Thanks so much, Arnie. And if anyone's interested in learning more about the state of cycling in Ajax, I do have completed applications from Ajax that I can share with any communities that are interested. I see that Nelson has something to share about Bike Brampton. Nelson, would you mind unmuting and sharing live with everyone what is happening with Bike Brampton?
Hi, everyone. This is a big risk because I'm not in my typical office. I'm actually on the main level enjoying lunch with a very busy family. So I apologize in advance if there's any interruptions. The point I was only, I guess, intended to make with my comment was, when you're dealing with that resistance from the majority of the public, it's important that council sees and hears that support as well. So, you know, for years when I started this, we were always pushing back the radicals because we didn't want their their influence on what we were doing. But we quickly realized that their influence is very important. So we've educated. So, our biggest partner, I think, is Bike Brampton, which is, a group of volunteers in the city that are trying to move forward, cycling. So we educate them, and now we find that anytime we go to the council with a report, they're there. They're delegating. When there's a public meeting, they're there. They're representing the cycling community. So huge in getting that community involved. We're fortunate because we have a very active group in Bike Brampton. But if you can find that champion, whether it's on council or in the community, goes a long way.
Thanks so much, Nelson. And I know that one of the other strategies that have been used in Brampton is the use of signage. Now, as new installations are put in, new roads are built, new communities are designed, there is a lot more signage going up about sharing the road and painted lanes and separated cycling infrastructure. It's wonderful to see happening in my hometown. That many neighboring communities are looking to what's happening with Bike Brampton and in Brampton specifically. So I look forward to the next application coming in from Brampton, hopefully this fall.
Stu, if I can just add in, I was mentioning kind of that like road rage happens. Actually, our national office released a campaign. I think it's still going on, but just addressing that head on of just cyclists, people on bikes and drivers just inherently have a conflict for whatever reason it is. So they just addressed that head on and gave that reminder. The theme was everyone just needs their space. So keep a safe distance, but also just kind of focus on the road and work together. So that was a really well-received campaign that they've been doing so far. A lot of people enjoyed how it's just kind of, and sometimes you need to do that. If you know there's an issue or if you know there's a conversation happening, just addressing it head on, getting it out of the way. And sometimes that's how you get those people who are hesitant to receive that message, is by just addressing their mindset, because that makes them listen a bit more, or what makes them want to have that conversation.
Yes, certainly. And over the last 2 years, since the beginning of the pandemic, there have been a rise of reckless driving cases and road racing, as there are excuse me, fewer drivers on the road generally. There appears to be the space for recklessness. And what some municipalities have done is taken the unfortunate circumstances, the unfortunate injuries or deaths, and use that as an opportunity to educate more widely about the rules of the road, the importance of sharing the road, and the considerations and responsibilities that both drivers and cyclists have. It is a shared responsibility. We still have about 10 minutes. Were there any other questions, either related to specific parts of the BFC application, strategies for populating the form, or questions that you had from Catherine about her experiences in Brantford and actually filling out the application? All right, well, I will take the radio silence to mean that the presenters today were comprehensive, myself included, and I would like to let you know about the upcoming webinars. On August 12th, there will be a session on promoting bicycle ridership through voluntary bike registries. This will feature Project 529 that is now present in a number of communities across Canada and the United States. The speakers will be Donna Williams from Project 529, Detective Rob Brunt from Vancouver Police Department, and Constable Ryan Cuthbert from Ottawa Police Services. They will share their experiences in voluntary bike registry and returning bikes to their owners. Our final session will be under the fourth E, the engineering E. That will be key updates to the Ontario Traffic Manual Book 18. That'll take place on Thursday, September 9th from 12 to 1 p.m. Our speakers will be Dave McLaughlin and Sean Smith from WSB Canada. So there's a link at the top of the screen here, but you can also register in the same way that you did for the current webinar, and we look forward to seeing you at the next session. So thank you very much to Catherine and Michael for your presentations today, and for those of you who tuned in and interacted with the panel. The slides from today and the recording from today will be posted on our website by early next week. And I look forward to hearing from you at bfc@sharetheroad.ca. Have a wonderful rest of the day and summer. Goodbye, everyone.